Hey, welcome back to another video for this series. So, uh, it's like I'm having issues with the video, but that's fine. So, thank you for coming back to another video in the series. In this video, we're going to actually be performing security assessment using a couple of different tools. And I also want to say thank you as well for taking a look at the last video if you did get a chance to check it out, which is about encryption and hashing. That was very fun, and I hope to continue to have more fun in this video. So again, we're going to be going over a few things as far as different tools to have a security assessment. We're going to be connecting to Kali Linux, as you can see here. We can also identify some live hosts using Nmap as well as Hping3, and a few other things we're also going to do as well as creating an exploit. So let's go ahead and get started. So first, we're going to be identifying our live systems, right? So the basic and foremost step in studying the physical connectivity of networks is scanning, right? So scanning, also known, which could also be said as probing, same. It's a process of right of just you want to lead the target machine to showcase useful information that you can use against them later, right? So network scanner, which is what we're going to use eventually, is a tool that will help us scan the network to have pretty much send out a search party of what we can find, right? So some of the popular network scanning tools are like Nmap and Hping3, which we're going to use today. They have a couple of different features actually that give complete control over the scans that you can actually do. So let's actually take a look in Kali. Let's see, let's log in. But yeah, I saw that coming. All right, perfect. So let's go ahead and open up our Q terminal. Perfect. All right, so now we're at the command prompt for the root. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, perfect. So as we can see, ETH0, right, it's the first in the output and the only Ethernet interface in the network. And low, as we can see, should be here. There it is. All right, and low is the loopback interface, right, that the system uses to communicate with the cell. So we can also see that let's see, the Kali Linux, it should show, there it is, its IP is right here, right, ending in 0.3. So now we're just going to display the help summary page of Nmap. So let's go ahead and use this command. It's not how you spell Nmap. All right, perfect. So we take a look at the summary of Nmap. Right, you can learn about various switches and scanning techniques that's also supported through here as well. But I just wanted to just browse through that really quick. I want to explain what I'm doing, but I also don't want to make the video too long. But in the Nmap scan, right, we can actually specify a couple things, right, as far as the domain name, the target IP address, the IP address range of the subnet, this classes interdomain routing, right. So for what I'm going to do now is just perform a simple ping, right, a simple ping suite known as a ICMP scan to determine how many hosts respond to the ping request, right. So let's go ahead and see how we can get that done. So just sending a ping request sent by the Nmap, right? As we can see here for the subnet that I have here. So also I want to explain a little bit about my command. So as far as here, right? While it's loading for us, it's loaded now, but the Nmap switch, right, for the ping scan is -SN, and the SN switch disables the port scan by default and only sends ping requests to specific target machines, right? So all of the hosts that actually talk back or respond to the request with valid responses are treated as live hosts, and the rest of the hosts that don't respond to the ping requests are considered as not being live, which means they're not awake to say anything back. That's like talking to someone in their sleep. They're obviously not going to respond, right? When you're talking to someone that's awake, doing things, moving around, you're naturally going to respond to you calling out to them. But nonetheless, we can move on to our next task, identifying live hosts using Hping3. So similar to Nmap, right, we can also use Hping3 to identify as a host is live or not. I'll say awake. I'll say awake as a better term because I want to make sure that the vernacular I use, I want to make sure that while there is an understanding, I want to make sure I put it in simplistic terms as much as possible. So you want to identify if a host is awake or not, right? The term I'll use going forward. So it's not possible to specify an IP address range as a potential target in the Hping3 utility. So only one target at a time can be specified. So take your time pretty much on, you can only do one thing at a time. So let's actually clear this up. And now we can view the help summary page to learn about various switches and scanning techniques supported by the tool on Google somewhere. But now I'm just going to also display the Hping3 here. Hping, I can't even say it right. Gosh. Let's see. All right, perfect. Get all that. So it pretty much gives us a summary page, right, of what Hp3. I'm just gonna call it HP. Kids, get tired tongue trying to say it, but now I'm just gonna perform a simple ping scan, right? Again, known as the ICMP scan, to determine if the host responds to our ping request, right? So let's go ahead and right. Now, also want to talk a bit about the command I used here, right? So the -1 or the subtract one, this switch enables the ICMP mode in HP's utility. So from the output, right, we can see that the host 0.1 responds with the valid ICMP response for every request sent. So it's saying, hey, are you woke? Yes, I'm awake. Hey, are you awoke? Yes, I'm awake. Some type of back and forth like that, right? And it goes on and on forever because it's going to naturally be awake along with this command that is pinging out. So we're going to stop this. There it is. Control C, so I could cancel the packet transmission. So we can also perform similar ping scans techniques against other hosts in the environment as well to determine if they're alive or not. But we're just going to leave it at that. So next we're going to do is performing zone parameters. So the DNS with the domain name system server, it provides three types of zones, right? It's primary, secondary, and stub zones, right? So the zone transfer is a mechanism in which the changes are made to the zone on a master server, which are replicated to all the secondary servers for that particular zone. That's like saying, hey, low hanging fruit example, but let's say, hey, I make $100,000 a year, and of course that $100,000 a year, I go out, get the resources, I bring it back, and everyone in my home gets to live a certain lifestyle because of the amount that I make. You're not going to make, not going to make or live off a $30,000 lifestyle if I'm bringing home 100,000. So that's a similar, pretty much the same principle, the same concept, right? So whatever the main has, the secondary naturally has as well. So and the transfer is over. So what we're going to do in our first task is we're going to use the nslookup to perform the zone transfer, right? So we actually need to swivel over to this server here. We can get into that command prompt. All right, perfect. So we got the command prompt up and running. So let's go ahead and do that, the nslookup here. That's me. All right, so as you can see, it changed to a greater than single symbol. All right, so but that's what I expect. So I'm just going to go ahead and type the server that I want to reach out to. Ping. And the 0.1 is just considered out the IP address for the DNS server. So now I get to, let's see. Perfect. So the command just retrieves all the records from the server. So now I'm just going to, oh no. Let's see. All right, so this command just allows the DNS server to transfer the practicelabs.com zone to the practice labs Win10. So the DNS server also, I want to know, that's used in this demonstration is not vulnerable to zone transfers. But in addition, the external domain practicelabs.com is, of course, fictitious and not available in the environment. So the command is not going to display any successful output, unfortunately. But nonetheless, we just wanted to make sure we have the proper application of the concept. So now we're going to swivel back over to Kali, right? So we're going to use the dig tool to actually perform the actual zone transfer, right? So what the dig is, right? The dig is the domain information groper. It's the dig CLI that's used to query DNS servers. So it helps the network administrations to troubleshoot network related issues. So we can actually use the dig command line tool if we want to perform the zone transfer from a Linux. So this tool, of course, exists on Kali by default for this lab environment. But now we're just going to use the dig tool to query. So let's go ahead and start with our first command. Let's see. I thought I was typing. All right. All right, perfect. So this parameter just provides the complete listing of the domain record. So, and also just want to convey again, the server used in this demonstration is not vulnerable to zone transfers. Also, the external domain is fictitious, not available. So the command is going to naturally display in the successful output. I just want to put that out there. But nonetheless, we can move forward. So now we're just going to work with remote target. So the PsInfo is a command line tool that comes bundled with the Microsoft System Internal Suite. So by default, this tool just provides the local system info. So we can use this tool to actually retrieve information about remote systems in the network. So first, we're just going to actually swivel to this here. And let's open this guy up. I'm just going to use the PsInfo tool. Let's go ahead and copy, and we're going to paste this to the desktop. All right, perfect. So now we see it on the desktop physically here. So let's actually go back to the command. So we're just going to navigate to the desktop folder. All right, perfect. Love it, love it. So now we're just going to retrieve and display the system information for server DCO1. So let's do that with this here. Okay. There it is. Of course, I agree. All right, so I want to point out that the parameter -h displays a list of installed hotfixes, and the parameter -d displays the information related to the disk value, right? So the tool is displaying the system information for server DCO1. That's right here, right? Okay, so also now we're able to move forward with working with the finger command, right? So in Unix or Linux, right, interchangeably, you can use the finger command to retrieve information about the system users in the network, right? So what we're going to do is actually work with the finger command. So actually, let's see, let me actually swivel over here. So this command just displays information about all the users available in the system, right? That's all it does, really. But now what we're able to do is let's swivel over to our next exercise, which is social engineering reconnaissance. So often, a compromise in a company begins by attackers searching through social media for personal information that might aid them in gaining legitimate details by impersonating that person's business. So this is my personal tidbit. Also, this is where I'm a bit conflicted on the recently rolled out LinkedIn tool, or not tool, but they now verify where you work. They can verify you as a person and or where you work on the LinkedIn website. So I would assume, again, I'm a newbie to all of this, but I would assume that wouldn't that make it a bit easier for social engineering reconnaissance? Oh, I know for a fact this person worked here. I mean, they probably would be able to do that in general as far as scraping LinkedIn, right? So, but I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's just a bunch of nothing that I'm thinking. But nonetheless, we can just go ahead and swivel over to Win10, right? So I'm actually going to log into a fictitious social media site. So let's see. It's going to be. Wait till you guys hear the name for this. MyBook, yes. So of course we're presented immediately. I went to this website for a very similar topic in another video, but we're going to go ahead and get it over again because I love to do things a million times over until I can speak to it very confidently. So, but nonetheless, we'll move forward. So we're presented immediately with the profile of Philip, right? Philip Nomad. So we're viewing the timeline page where all the, of course, recent activities regarding his life are being posted publicly and can be viewed by naturally everyone, right? So we're able to explore and gather information about him. So, which is a key part of any attack. There, we're going to review the types of details that an attacker might use to gain the confidence to impersonate Philip, right? For anything. So, explain the site a little bit further. Let's see. He has about 1,325 people, following him in his job role, right? Is a front end software engineer. Jesus Christ. So this makes Philip, of course, an interesting target, given it's high likely that his personal information that could be used to trick a company into thinking the attacker is Philip. Now, let's see. He's an active member, right? He just posted about 15 minutes ago, where he's commented. He's also commented on someone else's photo down. Where did I see that? Yeah, I think it was here. Yeah, here it is. I know I saw it somewhere. So yeah, nonetheless, he's pretty active, right? And you can see that he's married, right? The type of clothes worn on a wedding day, the background location of the wedding might be key to work employees were invited to the wedding. There's let's see, he has a couple friends, right? Let's see, John, you have Alexis, right? Who may be close enough to Philip. I believe they commented on his photos, right? And you learned that there's a possibility of a potential baby on one of the photos, right? So interestingly, his car is broken down. I'm not sure if you guys seen that portion of where he posted. But yeah, his car broke down. This might be a very useful piece of information for an attacker to begin investigating Philip's personal life a little bit further. So the attacker could make it to use it to make contact with the car garage to inquire about the vehicle while posing as Philip, right? So let's actually take a look at the About tab, right? So Philip has been kind enough to provide us with his phone number, his date of birth, where he was educated. I mean, Christ. Key information, right, such as this is used by attackers to gain the confidence of personnel who might be performing security checks. So one of the most common questions, right, used for 2FA as far as some sort of when you're calling in, right, what's your date of birth? So you may have a legitimate answer to respond with. So if Philip was real, right, you could also begin to search for Oxford University for personal information and see if you get any hits for him attending the university on all the information that aids in the reconnaissance process, right? So here we're also confronted or presented rather with his past working experience of working with HP. And previous to that, you can see Costa. And again, you can actually search the AP site to see what the details come up about Philip. And it might lead an attacker to have more useful information to convince an IT department Philip needs a password change, and they can do that for him, right? So another piece of the puzzle is a possible home location right here based in Kingston upon Thames or Thames. I don't know if they pronounce it differently in the UK, but often mobile software these days populates images or posts the details with the user locations at the time of posting as well. Let's take a look at that, right? So we can notice here that Philip's job title has developed. It's listed him as creative director who works in front-end software design. So a director role means some very important things. So he has access to important resources and information. His passwords likely provide him with admin level or root access to domains or servers full of data, right? Which is situations like corporate espionage could be very lucrative. So this is an album, right, that was shared, right? You can see that he was enjoying going to raves and scenic views, and possibly he may have a small pet, right? And again, a classic question asked like insecure questions, right? What is or was the name of your first pet? And additionally, people use their pet names as their passwords and date of birth for passwords or pins to accounts, right? So if we take a look at his friends, also, we can see that he has a few contacts. Some might be worth learning more about. So we can notice that Sophia, she's a student in Oxford, right? And possibly they attended university at the same time as each other. We also see Robert Cook. Being a photographer, he might have interesting photos of Philip's life providing more insight into the type of person that he is, giving away characteristics to be used when impersonating. So we can also see, let's see, I believe I just saw, I think it was this one here. She was on his page. Let's see. Online. Yeah, we go back to, what's her name? I believe her name was Nina, but I don't, yeah, that's her name. So we can also see a posting for Nina, right? Who might be a family relation. You see other folks as well who's also, let's see, her. Let's see, it was another friend that he had. There she is, Linda Lohan. All right, she's also a software engineer, right? So, I mean, she might work with Philip, right? So additionally, we see James, he's the CEO, right? Of a company called IT Farm. He can have a working relationship that might be useful to learn more about in terms of the type of work performed and what access Philip had to IT Farm, right? So the next stage used by an attacker is to request a friendship, usually by setting up a fake account with information that might trick Philip into accepting it, like pretending to work at IT Farm, and using that as an excuse to get Philip to access a friendship link, right? And the purpose, of course, is to gain information that leads to a possible email phishing attack against the CEO of IT Farm, James, right? So, or to social engineer the IT or HR department of Google or whomever, right, to get them to change Philip's password, provided them access, right? So, but that's all. That's all for the social engineering reconnaissance. But nonetheless, um, we can actually use the social engineering toolkit, which is otherwise known as Set and Kali Linux. So with a little skill set, right, you can always break someone's password using various methods like brute force or dictionary attack. However, it's much easier to trick someone to simply share the password with you without them even knowing that they shared it. So you can also control their system without letting them know, but you should trick them into installing something or opening a file which contains a specific payload. So when you're performing a social engineering attack, when you're performing tricks with people to share their confidential information or like run a malicious file or payload, you're performing an attack, right? Social engineering. So, which is an art, of course, of manipulating people to perform a task that allows you to gain their confidential information and such. We're going to do a little bit of that. So let's actually naturally, let's see, let's create an exploit. So we can perform social engineering, again, using various methods, right? So Set provides many tools. So we're going to focus on specific ones, but we can also, use a few others, right, outside of this particular exercise here. So we're actually going to tell Kali to help us out. So let's see here. There we go. Of course we do. All right. So now we're on the main menu, and we notice there's multiple options here, right? And each option is designed to perform a specific task. So we can update the social engineering toolkit by selecting the 5 naturally, but to continue with what we're trying to accomplish today, I'm just going to press 1 for social engineering attack, right? And next, now we see another menu, right, that relates to the social engineering attacks option. Now that the given choices, we're going to choose number 4 because that's, again, the nature of what we're trying to accomplish today. The other ones are a bit more rigorous, but we'll do that in another video. But nonetheless, now we're prompted to select an option out of the given choices here. And again, for purposes of what we're trying to accomplish, right, using the social engineering toolkit, we're just going to press number 5, which is the Windows interpreter of reverse TCP, right? Perfect. So now we're prompted to provide the IP address for the payload listener. This is the IP address for your system, which is the Kali Linux. So in this lab environment, we're just going to do the one we did earlier. This one here. Now, in a real environment, we'll have a different IP naturally, right? We won't be using this IP address because it's only applicable to this lab. So we don't know the IP address. If you don't know for your Kali Linux, you could just use another command prompt window and run ifconfig, no space, all one word. If you know the network adapter name, then you can run ifig or ifconfig eth0 or space eth0, where eth0 is the name of the network adapter, but of course, naturally, you have to check your system. So now we have to enter the port number, right? And the port number for the reverse listener will be 443, right? So now they're generating the payload naturally, right? So now that there's the backdooring, right, a legitimate executable process. So the executable is now being packaged in a manner that the antivirus cannot detect it. So after the executable is created, it's stored in the root set, right? So the default name for the file is payload.exe, naturally, right? So we're going to change after transporting it to the victim system. So let's see, yes, naturally. Do we want to start? Yes, we do. Perfect. So now the Metasploit framework starts. So now we're ready to move to the next level, which is sharing the payload with the victim and then capture the information when the victim executes the payload. All right. So now we're at the, let's see, we should be at another prompt. No, you know what? That's fine. We're at the exploit. That's all right. So now we're just going to set up the FTP server. So now that we've created the payload, we need to share it with the victim. In a real environment, we'll have different methods of transporting this payload to the victim system. For example, some of the common transport methods are like email, attaching payload by an email, right? USB, and it's kind of, I'm not going to say it's rare, but I don't think it happens that often. Again, newbie um, to the career, to the industry, but I would believe it would happen that often unless, I mean, I guess I could be surprised too, but nonetheless, we can move forward. So you can also have it downloaded. You keep the infected file in let's say a download repository from where the victim downloads the payload. Have it, you can share it through FTP, making it look like a legitimate file. But in this task, we're going to set up an FTP server and share the file with the victim. Now now the set provides a lot of tools, but we're going to focus on this specific one. So to set up the FTP server, now that we have ensured that the Metasploit window is open, right? Well, the payload should be in this running state, which is here, right? So now we're going to set up the server, and of course, the different options, right? We can set up an independent server, FTP server, or use an auxiliary FTP server of the Metasploit. So we're going to use auxiliary. Let's see. Let's see. There we go. All right, so now the command has changed. Let's see. The command should have changed. Let's see. Build flow module. Okay. Let's see what happened here. If I misspell auxiliary. All right. So naturally, it was user error, and I most certainly misspelled auxiliary. But nonetheless, we'll move forward. So let's go ahead and now the command prompt now we can see has changed to MSF5 auxiliary, right? So now we need to set the FTP root directory, right? So we do that with this command. If it'll let me type here. Perfect. All right. So now we need to exploit. Perfect. So the server started. Right. So I'm actually going to, let's see, let's go back here. Right. So now I'm just going to download the payload because I've set up the FTP server. So now I need to download the file onto the victim system, which is 110. So I don't need to connect the FTP client to download the file. Just going to use the Windows command prompt to connect to the FTP server. All right. So actually, you know what? Yeah, that's fine. Okay. So let's do something like this, right? So now we're connected with the FTP server. Now we're going to authenticate as the anonymous user. So hopefully I can spell this correctly. If it's not. Okay. Can I spell anonymous? Hmm. All right, again, use your error. So let's go ahead and continue. Went ahead and take care of it. Perfect. And naturally, I'll leave the blank for the password. So now I'm successfully authenticated within the FTP server. So now I'm just going to, perfect. So now the payload.exe, right here, is present on the FTP server. So now I'm going to set the transfer to binary, right? So let's tell it. So the type is set. So now I get to transfer the file now to the victim system. Perfect. So the transfer is successful. All right. Transfer complete. So just want to let's see. Let's see. Actually, I'll quit it. Close the server. All right. So now it's no longer available. All right. Perfect. So let's actually take a look. Let's see it. Okay. Well, forgot what I was almost forgot what I was looking for. Um, let's see. There it is. There it is. So the payload file is present. So I'm actually going to move to just going to just drag it over to do it another way, but we'll just drag it over. All right, so here we go. So I'm just going to rename it. All right, and then oh, for us. All right, so perfect. Perfect. So the connection with the system is already open. So now let's actually exploit the victim system. So now the payload is running on the system. So let's do a few things actually. So let's see. Yeah. Right. So um, let's see. Oh, come on. Interact with the different session ID. This work is calling from the shell. And nonetheless, the session is now successfully established. Right. So we know that the interaction with the victim system has now started, right? So now we are able to virtually control the victim system. So we can see the processes that are running on their system. This command here, you see a couple of different things and who's logged into these things as well. Oh man. So, so the processes running are now displayed, right? So it's important to note that the last running process, which is the setup right here, which is the payload pretty much that we executed, right? So now we need to escalate privileges. Let's dig a little deeper, see what we can get, right? Because it's not just about breaking in, if you were in perusing and browsing around, it's about what did you take, right? What did you take or what were you able to successfully retrieve while you were there, right? So let's see. So it looks like it failed for the privilege escalation, right? So if we check, let's see if they have a webcam. Let's see. Actually, they don't, but Tiger does not have a webcam, right? So let's actually start capturing some keystrokes. Let's see what we can get there so we can see if we can get some credentials. Okay, starting the sniffer. All right. And now that it's started, we can actually, let's see if anything has been pressed. So now they're just giving us what was captured. And also, since the privilege escalation failed, we can also try something else with the system as well. So we can actually background the session. And the keystrokes, of course, didn't populate anything because I would have had to swivel over to that server to do that. But nonetheless, again, still the same concept, right? So we also want to notice that session one is already backgrounded, right? But we can also run more exploits if we want. And there's a lot of options available. We can, you can exploit them at any time pretty much. But nonetheless, we're able to move on to our next exercise, which is performing routing table verification. So different tools can be used for this, right? And two of them that we're going to take a look at is Netstat and Route, right? So the routing table, right, it's a very, very key piece of information to display topologies directly related to the device and the surrounding environment. So it details types of adapters used to make connections like that. The gateways the traffic is flowing through, and primarily is used as a troubleshooting tool when investigating where traffic bottlenecks, right, might be occurring. So let's actually swivel over here and let me exit out of here. And actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll make it. Right. Here, we can start using Netstat. All right, perfect. So I'm now displaying the routing table, right? So the output is displayed as, it's divided into different sections, right? So let's start there. So we have, let's see, interface list at the active routes. We have the persistent routes, V6 route table, persistent routes, and things of that nature routes, right? So we can actually use the route tool. So we'll be using the route command to actually display the route information similar to what we just used. It's useful to know, of course, a variety of different commands that may not have the same function, but they have similar functions, right? So let's actually clean this up first. And let's take a look at, actually, right? So the output of the route print command is displayed. So the output of this command is divided into sections just like the last one. This contains pretty much the same as before, right? And we're presented with the interface list attached to the device, right? Which can be key to learning more about the network configuration. More importantly, we are also presented with the version 4 route table, IP version 4, of course. So it shows the active routes being applied to the network adapters, and the output shows if there's any persistent routes on the device or any device. So the route command displays if no persistent routing patterns are being used, particularly for V6, right? So now let's take a look at the persistent routes here. There aren't any. Let's see. Yeah, no. Yeah, there are none, so there's nothing to see here. All right, perfect. So this brings us actually to the end. I apologize for the video issues. Not sure what's going on with my tool. But nonetheless, just for a brief recap, this is the end of us doing different security assessment with different tools. Using Kali Linux, of course, we identified some line posts with Nmap, Hping, nslookup. We used a dig tool. We used a couple of different tools actually in this one, Netstat. Created an exploit of the FTP server. This was actually pretty freaking fun, man. This was really nice. I loved it. Loved every second of it. So this has been this video. And thank you again for watching the last video. And then the next one, we're actually going to use another couple set of tools for more security assessments. So I'll see you on the next one. Stay curious, stay secure.